Brant, the Lions last year were arguably the best team in the NFL in the regular season. We all know how the season ended after getting the bye in the playoffs and home field advantage. It did not end well against the Commanders. And so while being on a complete high and being dominant all year, they end on a bad note. They lose both their coordinators and Ben Johnson to the Bears, Aaron Glenn to the Jets, and here we are back in August. They're in camp right now. We don't need to talk about the Hall of Fame preseason game too much. I don't put too much into any of that. But I do want to just talk an overall state of this football team and just kind of what you're thinking. What are your, without going through the schedule game by game and all that, we know they can have a tough schedule. What are just your overall general predictions for this team, some general statements heading into the 2025 season?
Look, I think there will be a slight regression, and maybe slight's not a great word to use because going from 15-2 to what I think might be 10-7 is a pretty good regression. That's not slight by any means. However, I think this division is much better. I still think that this division I still think is on the rise, Dave. When we talk about the NFC North, I don't think it's the best division in football, but I think it's definitely a top three division in football. And the Vikings are on the come up. I believe that J.J. McCarthy will be a good quarterback in this league. We saw some video of Caleb Williams this week that did not look good. But the Bears feel like they're probably on the come a little bit, and the Packers are a mainstay right now, I feel like. So this division is going to get much tougher, and come week one, you're going to be thrown right in the gauntlet in Lambeau Field. I know we're not going to go through the schedule today, but if you have your eyes marked on that game, it's like already let's get this division. Someone's going to be 1-0 and someone's going to be 0-1 walking out of there, and the Lions need to be prepared. And I think there can be some. While the Hall of Fame game is not something that you're going to take a lot of key takeaways, I think Dan, after the game, he seemed a little upset. And 5 turnovers will do that to you. Whether it just be from third stringers, fourth stringers, whatever they might be, guys trying to make the team right now, that did not seem like Lions standard to me. And Dan's post game certainly reflected that to me, Dave. He knows he has a lot of work to do, whether that be through the backup quarterbacks right now or just the offense in general. I think that Dan has some work to do with the backup quarterback situation.
Look, I think that the Lions they will have a regression this year. You have to. Having 15 wins in the regular season is slightly unheard of. I'm right there with you, Brand. I think we're looking at a 10-7, 11-6 football team, which is not a bad football team in the NFL. And in fact, to give some optimism to this episode, I think that's better for this Lions team. My prediction for this team is a regression in the regular season, but I think they make a postseason run. And I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but I felt like last year it was like all the stars aligned. Ben Johnson came back, Aaron Glenn was there, and it was like that was supposed to be the year, and it was a great year. And then they go to the playoffs and they fall flat on their face against a rookie quarterback in Jay Daniels and the Commanders. I think this year they have a more realistic regular season in a very tough division, like you said, and they may lose more games. They're going to lose more games, but I think when it comes playoff time, I think they make a bit of a run. I think this team plays better when they are the underdog. That's what Detroit football is. I have some questions about this team, as I'm sure you do too. But I also feel good in some ways. One of the questions that came up is just the backup quarterback situation and who is that guy? I mean, we saw what Kyle Allen looks like, and I know we saw Hendon Hooker in a slight sense. He's supposed to get the start in the second game. I guess we really need to see that. Are you worried about that? So I know that Jared Goff has not been hurt. Knock on wood, we've had a healthy Jared Goff. Are you worried about that backup quarterback situation? Is this something you just kind of talk in the back burner for now? Where are you at with that?
Yeah, I think it needs to be addressed. I don't think this is the time for Hendon Hooker to be lost. I will tell you that. Dan said how proud he was that he made an audible at the line. And it's like, Really, we're right there with him. Like we're super proud that he was able to make a check and to completely call a different play. I don't know, Hendon missed some time in his early going, but come on, we've got to be further than that along. I mean, that totally threw me off when he's like, yeah, I mean, that was just incredible to see. I don't know. I am stuck on that, but yeah, Dave, I am worried about the backup quarterback situation to say the least. Kyle Allen, we know, constant professional, been in the league a while now. He didn't look good, obviously, but I think there's something to be said about Jared Goff's healthiness right now and the way that he has played in his time in Detroit. He's been able to stay healthy. The offensive line obviously caters to that. So I don't think it's anything to be on the front burner, Dave, but definitely the back burner conversation of where are these guys actually at and how much command of the offense do they have? Because I think this preseason, that's something definitely you and I will be watching for to see if there's actually a capable backup on this roster.
I mean, I think just looking at this team, let's not forget the names that are there on offense. Losing Frank Ragnow cannot be underscored enough. That is the heart and soul of your offensive line. Yes, you've got Panay Sewell and Taylor Decker, Graham Glasgow, guys who have been there. You lose Zettler as well. I think that offensive line may not be as dominant as they have been in years past. That being said, having the Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery duo is going to be one of the best, if not the best, running back duo in the entire NFL. And that's exactly what a quarterback like Jared Goff needs. You have the safety blanket and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Brant. I'm predicting it right now. JMO is about to have a year. Jameson Williams, this is the breakout year. He is going to be extension eligible. I think that JMO is going to be he's going to be a huge asset to this offense in a way that we have not seen before. He may even be better than Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's what I'm going to go on the record and say right now. You add Sam Laporta, who had a hot rookie year. I wouldn't even call it a slump last year, but they just seem to use him a little bit less. And then I feel great about the offense. You bring on defense, you bring Aiden Hutchinson back. We're kind of running into this world of, and I know you kind of sub out Carlton Davis for DJ Reed, and you draft Tyleik Williams to put him there on that D line. There's still some that desire to get a second edge rusher next to Hutch. I mean, we've heard it. Add Micah Parsons to the list of people that Detroit wants here. But the reality is I think like that's a Calvin Shepard there on defense. I think that's going to be huge for this team and what he can do. Brad Holmes, and I think this is kind of where I want to go with this next as we kind of wrap up this segment is at what point, and maybe we're at this point, and I kind of want to know your thoughts. We have not had in the Brad Holmes era and the Dan Campbell era true, I mean, we had it last year to a certain extent, but then they won 15 games. True expectations. And so my question to you is this. If the Lions come out and have a 10-7, 11-6 year, and then, I don't know, win a game in the playoffs, but then lose, at what point do you feel like Brad and Dan are under the gun where people start to turn and say they're never going to get it done? Do you think we're there, or do you think that's just totally far off? And I'm not saying I feel one way or another. I just wonder at what point frustration starts to sit in, because for the Lions, this whole regime, Sheila, Dan, Brad, like it's been such a feel-good story, a turnaround story. At what point do you feel like the fans are gonna be like, "Whoa, this was a huge letdown," or "Whoa, like Dan, why are you going for it on fourth down? This is ridiculous," and people get fed up with it because it's not the feel-good story anymore.
Yeah, I think they probably hit that, or Lions fans hit that point last year with the loss to the Commanders. That you had that gut sinking feeling, but still 15-2, and we'll be back. And Dave, I think now it comes to the point of you expect Lions to win games against the lower echelon teams in the NFL. However, you still have trips to the Commanders. You still have trips to the Eagles this year. All the division games. Those are going to be the key games that you look for them to perform well in. And how do you stack up against the upper echelon of the NFC? And so I think it becomes more week to week now. And I mean, it's the NFL. You always have a stinker here and there, and that's nothing to get upset about. But I think you're going to start to measure it with playoff success with Dan and Brad. I think they're at that point. I think they've earned that right. So a 10-7 regular season, 11-6, 12-5, it's going to be fine. But I think if you still have the first round letdowns, I mean, talk to somebody that was a Cowboys fan. Year after year of mediocrity, and then you make the playoffs and you're bounced, and so the cycle goes on. And so when you talk about teams like that, the NFC Championship appearance was a massive thing, and and Lions fans are going to hold on to that for a long time. You know what I mean? That was a special season, but always leaves you wanting more. And so I think we're at the point now where it's starting to become about playoff success, Dave. And I believe that Lions fans, they don't really know how that feels, but this year will be the first year where I think 10-7 will be okay. 11-6 is fine. And we'll have to see how the playoffs shake out. And it's going to feel like a race to the playoffs, Dave. It's going to feel like we need to get there because we need to get our get back on the Commanders, or that feeling back.
Yeah, and the other thing that's interesting is just how good this division is getting. I mean, say what you will, the jokes about Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson to the Bears. The Bears are, tend to be trending upward. The Vikings as well, a very well coached team. They bring in JJ McCarthy healthy this year. And then don't forget the Packers. I mean, this division is going to be very good. It's not going to be a walk in the park like some divisions are in the NFL. And I think the Lions are going to be tested. However, I do still think the Lions are the best team in the NFC North. I think that Dan Campbell is a very good coach. I think what they have built here in Detroit is very special. But for the first time, the measuring stick is going to be by how far do we go in the playoffs. It's no longer about the feel-good story. It's no longer about how many games you won in the regular season and you're crushing everybody. It's going to be, can you get to a Super Bowl? And we're going to have to wait and see how this all shakes out.